A wealthy white heiress and black ex-firefighter risk everything for forbidden love, while a criminal organization hunts them down. Her powerful father vows to destroy his career, but a shocking secret from his heroic past changes everything. You won't believe the devastating sacrifice one makes for love. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Olivia Whitmore stood at the window of her father's penthouse office, gazing out at the Savannah skyline. At 28, she had everything money could buy: designer clothes, luxury cars, and a social calendar that kept her among Savannah's elite. But something was missing. Something always had been. "Miss Whitmore, your father will be delayed another hour," said her assistant Bethany from the doorway. He asked if he'd wait. Olivia sighed, checking her diamond watch. "Fine. I'll review the charity gala plans while I wait." Bethany nodded and left. Olivia was used to waiting for her father, Richard Whitmore, Savannah's most powerful real estate developer. He'd built an empire of luxury hotels, office buildings, and shopping centers across the South, and family always came second to business. Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from her most recent ex-boyfriend, Preston. They'd broken up 3 weeks ago after she caught him flirting with another woman at a charity event. "Dinner tonight?" The message read. "Miss you." Olivia deleted it without responding. Preston was handsome, came from old money, and looked perfect in photos for social media. But like all her previous boyfriends, there was no real connection, just two attractive people who made sense on paper. The sound of male voices in the hallway caught her attention. She walked to the door and saw her father speaking with two men in dark suits. One was older, balding, with a clipboard. The other was tall, broad-shouldered, with deep brown skin and a serious expression. He stood with the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen real danger and wasn't intimidated by wealth or status. "Olivia," her father called, noticing her. "Come meet the new security team. There was another break-in attempt last night." Olivia approached, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "I didn't hear about any break-in." "Nothing to worry about," Richard assured her. "Just some homeless person trying to get into the lobby. But I've hired Atlantic Security to upgrade our systems." The older man stepped forward. "Bob Johnson, ma'am, head of Atlantic Security. And this is Malik Rhodes, our chief officer who'll be overseeing your building's protection." Malik nodded politely. "Miss Whitmore." His voice was deep calm. His eyes, dark brown with flecks of amber, met hers briefly before returning to her father. Olivia barely acknowledged him with a nod. "Well, I'm sure you'll do a fine job," she said dismissively. "Daddy, when you're finished, I'll be in your office." As she walked away, she heard her father continuing the conversation about access codes and surveillance cameras. She didn't look back, but she could feel Malik's eyes on her. Later, when Bethany brought her coffee, Olivia glanced out the window and saw Malik walking the perimeter of the building, speaking into a radio. "Who's that?" Bethany asked, following her gaze. "New security." Olivia turned away from the window, part of Daddy's latest overreaction. "He's handsome," Bethany commented. Olivia raised an eyebrow. "He's just not my type." "Your type being?" "You know my type, Beth. Someone who fits into my world." Bethany just nodded, but her expression suggested she had more to say. The next morning, Olivia arrived early to meet with her father about the Whitmore Foundation's annual fundraiser. As she entered the lobby, she saw Malik speaking with the receptionist. He wore a fitted black suit that emphasized his athletic build, a stark contrast to the preppy, country club men she usually dated. He noticed her and nodded. "Good morning, Miss Whitmore." "Morning," she replied coolly, heading for the elevator without stopping. Inside, she pressed a button for the penthouse and caught a reflection in the mirrored wall. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her cream-colored dress impeccable. She looked exactly like what she was, a wealthy Southern belle, raised to maintain appearances above all else. The elevator doors opened at the executive floor, where her father's assistant, Margaret, greeted her. "Your father had to leave for an emergency meeting with investors," Margaret said apologetically. "He asked if you could reschedule for tomorrow." Olivia's smile tightened. Of course he did. It was always the same. Growing up, Richard had missed dance recitals, graduations, and even her college acceptance celebration because work came first. After her mother left when Olivia was 12, and then losing her brother Sam to a car accident in college, she'd learned to expect disappointment. "I'll be in my office," Olivia said, walking down the hall to the smaller corner office her father had given her when she joined the company after college. She spent the morning reviewing applications for foundation grants, but her mind kept wandering. At lunchtime, she decided to head to her favorite cafe across the street. In the lobby, she ran into Malik again, this time checking credentials of a delivery person. "All set, sir," Malik said to the delivery man, who nodded gratefully and hurried away. Malik turned and saw Olivia waiting. Miss Whitmore, heading out for lunch. She was surprised he'd spoken to her directly. "Yes. Is that a security concern?" His expression remained professional, but something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, perhaps. "Not at all. Just making conversation." "Well, don't let me keep you from your duties," she said, walking past him toward the revolving doors. Outside, the September sun was bright, the air humid with lingering summer heat. As she crossed the street, she glanced back and saw Malik watching from the lobby doors, scanning the street with alert eyes. That evening, Olivia worked late, finalizing the guest list for the Foundation's gala. Most of the staff had gone home, and the office floor was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. She checked her watch, 9:30 p.m., and decided to call it a night. As she gathered her things, the lights suddenly flickered, then went out completely. Emergency lights clicked on, casting the office in an eerie glow. Olivia reached for her phone, dialing her father. No answer. She tried Bethany. Voicemail. "Great," she muttered, grabbing her purse and heading for the door. The hallway was dark, illuminated only by small safety lights along the floor. She moved carefully toward the elevator, then remembered it wouldn't work during a power outage. She'd have to take the stairs. Olivia pushed open the stairwell door and began descending the 20 floors to the lobby. She was on the 15th floor when she heard a door open somewhere below. Footsteps echoed upward. She paused, listening. The footsteps weren't the steady pace of security. They were hurried, erratic. Something felt wrong. Olivia continued downward more cautiously. When she reached the 10th floor, she heard the footsteps again, closer now. Then a man's voice, rough and unfamiliar. "Check the upper floors. The security system's down. We got 20 minutes. Max." Another voice answered. "What if someone's still here? Deal with it. That safe in Whitmore's office is our target." Olivia froze, her heart hammering. This wasn't a homeless person trying to get warm. These were professional thieves. She backed up quietly, returning to the door for the 12th floor. She slipped through and found herself in another dark hallway. Pulling out her phone, she remembered the building's emergency system that her father had mentioned, a direct line to security. With shaking hands, she found the number and texted. Break-in. 12th floor. Armed men in stairwell heading up. "Oh, Whitmore." The response came almost instantly. "Stay where you are. Lock yourself in an office." "On my way. Rhodes." Olivia hurried down the hall, trying door handles until she found one unlocked. She slipped inside what appeared to be a conference room and locked the door behind her. She crouched beneath the table, trying to control her breathing. Minutes passed like hours. Then she heard shouting, a crash, the sound of running footsteps. A gunshot made her gasp, clapping her hand over her mouth to stay silent. More shouting, another crash, then silence. Olivia stayed frozen, tears streaming down her face. Her phone vibrated. "Where exactly are you?" "Rhodes." She texted back. "Conference room, 12th floor east side." "Stay put." A minute later, there was a soft knock at the door. "Miss Whitmore? It's Malik Rhodes. You're safe now." Olivia scrambled to her feet and unlocked the door. Malik stood there, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt stained with what looked like blood. But what struck her most was his expression, intense concern behind that professional calm. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, unable to speak. "The police are on their way. One suspect is in custody." The other fled. Are you able to walk? Olivia nodded, but as she took a step forward, her knees buckled. Malik caught her, his strong arm steadying her. I've got you, he said, his voice gentle. She looked up at him, really seeing him for the first time. A cut above his eyebrow was bleeding, and his sleeve was torn. You're hurt, she managed. It's nothing. Come on, we need to get you somewhere safe. As they moved toward the elevator, now functioning with emergency power, Olivia realized she was still holding onto his arm. His shirt was ripped at the shoulder, revealing a glimpse of scar. The elevators are working again, he explained. Pressing the button, backup generator kicked in. Inside the elevator, Olivia noticed more blood on his sleeve. Your arm. One of them had a knife. It's just a scratch. She realized then that he'd fought off armed men to reach her. You could have been killed. His eyes met hers. Just doing my job, Miss Whitmore. The elevator doors opened to reveal police officers and paramedics in the lobby. The next hour passed in a blur of questions and statements. Malik stayed nearby the whole time, giving his own statement, but keeping her in his sight line. Finally, a police officer said, We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to sign your statement. Ms. Whitmore, is there someone who can take you home? Before she could answer, the lobby doors burst open and Richard Whitmore rushed in, his face pale with worry. Olivia. He pulled her into a rare hug. Are you all right? I came as soon as I heard. I'm fine, Daddy, she said, surprised by his emotion. Mr. Rhodes made sure of that. Richard turned to Malik, who stood a respectful distance away. Thank you. Whatever Atlantic Security is paying you, I'll double it. Malik shook his head. No need for that, sir. I'm just glad Miss Whitmore is safe. Richard insisted on driving Olivia home himself, unusual for a man who typically had a chauffeur. As they left, Olivia looked back at Malik, who was speaking with a police officer. He glanced up, meeting her eyes, and nodded once. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the gunshot, felt the terror of hiding under that table. But she also kept seeing Malik's face, feeling the steady strength of his arms as he'd helped her to the elevator. She reached for her phone and found herself searching Malik Rhodes firefighter, without really knowing why. Several news articles appeared, dating back 3 years. One headline read, Local hero firefighter injured saving family of 4. The article showed a photo of a younger Malik receiving a commendation. The story described how he'd run back into a burning apartment building to save a trapped child after already rescuing the parents and one sibling. The ceiling had collapsed, leaving him with severe burns and a broken arm. Another article, dated 6 months later, mentioned his medical retirement from the fire department after his injuries proved career-ending. Olivia stared at his photo, trying to reconcile this hero with the quiet, professional man who'd been so easy to dismiss just days ago. The next morning, she went to the police station to sign her statement. Afterward, she returned to her father's building, feeling strange as she entered the lobby. Everything looked normal. The security desk, the gleaming marble floors, the receptionist answering phones. And there was Malik, speaking with Bob Johnson by the security monitors. He wore a fresh suit, but a bandage was visible at his temple where the cut had been. He noticed her immediately, excusing himself from Bob and approaching her. Miss Whitmore, how are you feeling today? The concern in his voice seemed genuine, not the practiced sympathy she was used to from people in her social circle. Better, thank you, she said, suddenly aware of how dismissive she'd been toward him before. I want to thank you properly for what you did last night. No thanks necessary, he replied. Your arm? She asked, nodding toward where she'd seen the blood. 7 stitches. Nothing serious. She wanted to say more, but didn't know how. All her life, she'd been taught to maintain a certain distance from the help, whether household staff, company employees, or security personnel. Well, thank you again, she said finally, moving toward the elevator. Miss Whitmore, he called after her. When she turned, he said, I'm glad you're all right. Something in his eyes made her breath catch. Sincerity, maybe, something she rarely encountered in her world of social climbing and appearances. In the days that followed, Olivia found herself looking for Malik whenever she came to the building. She told herself it was natural. He'd save her life, after all. But she knew it was more than that. She was intrigued by him in a way she couldn't explain. One evening, about a week after the break-in, Olivia was again working late. As she left her office, she saw Malik in the hallway, checking door locks. "Mr. Rhodes," she said, surprised. He turned. "Miss Whitmore, working late again." "Foundation deadline," she explained. "You're here late, too. New security protocols. I'm checking every floor personally each night." Olivia nodded, suddenly nervous. Would you mind walking me my car? I'm still a little jumpy." "Of course." They took the elevator down in silence. In the parking garage, he stayed beside her until she reached her white Mercedes. "Thank you," she said, unlocking the car. "Any time." She hesitated, then asked, "Were you really a firefighter?" Surprise flickered across his face. "Yes, for 8 years. I read about what happened, the family you saved." He looked away. "Just doing my job then, too." "Is that why you went into security? After you couldn't be a firefighter anymore?" Malik studied her for a moment, as if deciding how much to share. "It was a way to still protect people, yes." Olivia realized she wanted to know more about him. Everything, really, but she didn't know how to ask. She'd never been good at genuine connection. "Well, good night, Mr. Rhodes." "Good night, Miss Whitmore. Drive safely." As she drove home, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about him. For the first time in her life, she was drawn to someone who didn't fit the mold her father and society had created for her. Someone real. The next day, Olivia arrived at the office with 2 cups of coffee. She found Malik in the security office, reviewing camera footage. "Morning," she said, holding out one of the cups. "Black, right? I noticed that's how you take in the break room." He looked surprised but accepted the coffee. "Thank you. That's thoughtful. It's the least I could do." An awkward silence fell between them. Olivia rarely felt uncomfortable in social situations. She'd been trained since childhood to make small talk with anyone. But with Malik, all her practiced charm fell away, leaving her uncertain. "Your father increased the security budget," Malik said finally. "We're installing new cameras today." "That's good," she replied, relieved to have something to talk about. "Do you think they'll come back? The thieves, I mean." "Not likely, but we're not taking chances." Olivia nodded, then blurted out, "Would you like to have coffee sometime? Not here, I mean, at a real coffee shop." The words hung between them. Malik's expression was unreadable. "I don't think that would be appropriate, Miss Whitmore." "Olivia," she corrected. "And why not?" "You know why," he said quietly. She did know, because he worked security and she was the boss's daughter. Because he was black and she was white. Because they came from entirely different worlds. "Right," she said, embarrassed now. "Sorry, I shouldn't have." "It's not that I wouldn't want to," he interrupted, his eyes holding hers. "Under different circumstances." Something fluttered in her chest. Hope, maybe, or possibility. "Well, if you change your mind, the offer stands," she said, trying to sound casual. "Enjoy your coffee, Mr. Rhodes." "Malik," he said as she turned to leave. "My name is Malik." Olivia smiled. "Enjoy your coffee, Malik." That night, Olivia attended a charity dinner with her father. As they sat at their table, surrounded by Savannah's wealthiest families, she found herself bored by the conversation about vacation homes and stock portfolios. "The Prestons are here," her father said, nodding toward a nearby table where her ex-boyfriend sat with his parents. "I heard you two broke up. What happened?" Olivia sipped her champagne. "Nothing happened. We weren't right for each other." Richard frowned. "He's from a good family. His father's firm handles half my legal work. Is that why you wanted me to date him? Business connections?" "Don't be dramatic. Olivia, I want you to be with someone suitable. Someone from our world." "Our world." The words echoed in her mind, reminding her of what she'd said to Bethany about Malik not being her type. Maybe I don't want someone from our world, she said quietly. Richard looked at her sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Before she could answer, Preston approached their table, all white teeth and southern charm. Richard, good to see you, he said, shaking her father's hand. Olivia, you look stunning tonight. Thank you, Preston, she replied automatically. I was hoping I might steal a dance, he said, offering his hand. Richard nodded encouragingly, and Olivia felt trapped by social expectation. She stood and followed Preston to the dance floor. As they danced, Preston pulled her closer than necessary. I've missed you, Liv. We should give it another shot. The familiar cologne, the practiced smile, everything about him suddenly felt false. I don't think so, Preston, she said. Is there someone else? Malik's face flashed in her mind. No, I just know what I don't want anymore. When the song ended, she excused herself and returned to the table. Her father was deep in conversation with a business associate, barely noticing her return. Olivia sat there, surrounded by wealth and privilege, and felt utterly alone. The next day was Saturday, but Olivia went to the office to catch up on work. The building was quiet, with only a skeleton weekend staff. As she exited the elevator on the executive floor, she was surprised to see Malik standing by her office door. What are you doing here? She asked. New security system installation, he explained. I need to check the sensors in each office. On a Saturday? Best time to do it without disrupting business. She unlocked her office door. Well, come in then. As he checked the window sensors, Olivia pretended to work at her computer, but she was acutely aware of his presence, his careful movements, his focus. All set, he said finally. That was quick. I've been doing this all morning. Got a system. Instead of leaving, he hesitated, then asked, Why are you working on a Saturday? The question surprised her. No one usually asked about her choices. They just assumed she had nothing better to do. I'm reviewing grant applications. Helps me focus when it's quiet. Malik nodded. The Whitmore Foundation. I looked it up. You do good work. Thank you, she said, genuinely pleased. It's the one part of my job I really care about. Why is that? Olivia hesitated, then decided to tell him the truth. My brother, Sam, he died in college, car accident. He always wanted to help people. The foundation was started in his memory. Malik's expression softened. I'm sorry about your brother. It was 8 years ago, she said, though the pain still felt fresh. He was the good one, you know? Kind, genuine. I'm more like my father, focused on appearances. I don't think that's true, Malik said. Olivia looked up, surprised. You don't know me. I know you brought me coffee. I know you care about your foundation work. And I know you're here on a Saturday when you could be anywhere else. His perception of her, so different from how she saw herself, made her throat tight with emotion. What about you? She asked. Why security? You could have done anything after leaving the fire department. Malik moved to the chair across from her desk, sitting down. It was the first time he'd relaxed in her presence. My grandfather was security guard for 40 years, he explained. He taught me that protecting people isn't just about physical safety. It's about making them feel secure. After the fire, when I couldn't go back to firefighting, this felt right. The fire, Olivia said softly. The article said you were badly injured. Malik nodded, unconsciously touching his left shoulder. Burns, broken bones, lung damage from smoke. Took a year of recovery. Can I ask, why did you go back in? You'd already saved the parents. His eyes met hers, intense and honest, because their daughter was still inside, and I could hear her crying. Something shifted inside Olivia at his words. All her life, she'd been surrounded by people who calculated every move based on personal gain. Malik had risked his life for a stranger's child without hesitation. That coffee shop offer still stands, she said quietly. This time, Malik didn't immediately refuse. Your father wouldn't approve. I'm 28 years old. I don't need my father's approval. People would talk. Let them. He studied her face, as if looking for something. Whatever he saw made him nod slowly. Okay, coffee. Just once. Olivia smiled, feeling like she'd won something precious. Tomorrow, there's a place called Brood Awakening on River Street. I know it. 11 o'clock. Perfect. After he left, Olivia sat at her desk, heart racing with anticipation. For the first time in years, she was stepping outside the narrow boundaries of her privileged life, towards someone real. She didn't know where this would lead, but as she thought of Malik's quiet strength and genuine heart, she realized something important. Maybe he wasn't her type. Maybe that's exactly why she needed him. Sunday morning arrived with bright sunshine and a cool breeze. Perfect Savannah fall weather. Olivia spent more time than usual choosing her outfit, finally settling on jeans and a simple blue blouse, casual but elegant. She wanted to look different from the polished businesswoman Malik, saw every day at the office. As she drove to Brood Awakening, she felt nervous. This wasn't a date, she reminded herself. Just coffee with someone interesting. But she couldn't ignore the flutter in her stomach. The coffee shop was busy with the after-church crowd when she arrived. She scanned the room, wondering if Malik had changed his mind. Then she saw him at a corner table, wearing dark jeans and a gray Henley shirt that fit his athletic build perfectly. Without a security uniform, he looked more relaxed but no less commanding. He stood when he saw her approaching. "You came," he said, as if he'd half expected her to cancel. "Of course. I invited you, remember?" She smiled, sliding into the chair across from him. "I ordered you a latte," he said, pushing a mug toward her. "The barista said it's what you usually get." Olivia was touched that he'd bothered to ask. "Thank you. Do you come here often?" "Sometimes. They make good coffee and don't mind if I sit for hours reading." "You like to read?" He nodded. "History, mostly. Some fiction." A brief silence fell between them, not uncomfortable, but full of awareness. They were two people from different worlds, meeting on neutral ground. "So," she said finally, "tell me something about Malik Rhodes that's not in a newspaper article." He considered her question. "I have a dog named Chief, a rescued German Shepherd. He was a service dog who couldn't hack it, too friendly." Olivia smiled, picturing it. "I always wanted a dog. Father wouldn't allow it. Said it would ruin the carpets." "What about you?" Malik asked. "Tell me something about Olivia Whitmore that's not in society pages." She thought for a moment. "I hate champagne. I pretend to drink it at events, but I think it tastes like sour apple juice." Malik laughed, a rich, warm sound she hadn't heard before. "That's a serious confession for a Southern socialite. Don't tell anyone. I'd be disinvited from half the galas in Savannah." "Your secret's safe with me," he promised, his eyes crinkling at the corners. They talked for over an hour, learning small things about each other. Malik grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Atlanta, raised by his grandparents after his parents died in a car accident when he was 10. He'd wanted to be a firefighter since a crew had saved his classroom during an elementary school fire. Olivia told him about growing up in the Whitmore mansion, with its perfectly manicured gardens and cold, empty halls. How her mother had left when Olivia was 12, disappearing to Europe with a younger man and rarely contacted her children afterward. How her father had buried himself in work, leaving Olivia and her brother Sam to be raised by a succession of nannies. "Sam was my anchor," she said quietly. "When he died, I felt like I was drifting. No one really knew me anymore." Malik's hand moved across the table, not quite touching hers, but close. "I'm sorry. Losing someone you love changes you. How do you handle it? The losses you've seen as a firefighter." "You learn to focus on who you can save, not who you couldn't," he said. "But some still haunt you." The honesty in his voice made Olivia realize how rarely people in her life spoke genuine truths. Everyone was always performing, maintaining appearances. "This is nice," she said. "Just talking. Being real. Is that rare for you?" "More than it should be." They might have talked all day, but Malik's phone buzzed with text. "Work," he explained, checking it. "I'm on call." "Of course," Olivia said, trying to hide her disappointment. "I understand." They walked outside together, lingering on the sidewalk. "Thank you for coffee," Malik said. "Thank you for coming." He hesitated, then asked, "Would you want to do this again sometime?" Olivia smiled. "I'd like that. I'm off Thursday evening." "Thursday works for me." They stood there a moment longer, neither wanting to leave. Finally, Malik said, "I should go." "Be safe," she replied, as she watched him walk away. Olivia realized she hadn't felt this light, this genuinely happy, in years. Monday morning. Olivia arrived at the office early, hoping to catch a glimpse of Malik before her meetings began. She found him in the lobby, instructing a new security guard. "Good morning, Mr. Rhodes," she said professionally, aware of others nearby. "Miss Whitmore," he replied with a nod, his expression giving nothing away. But as she walked toward the elevator, she felt his eyes following her, and she couldn't help smiling. Throughout the week, they maintained a professional distance at work. She the executive's daughter, he the head of security. But small moments connected them. A lingering glance in the hallway, her taking the stairs instead of the elevator, so she might pass the security office, him finding reasons to check the executive floor. On Wednesday, Olivia was in a meeting with her father and the foundation board when Malik knocked on the conference room door. "Excuse me, Mr. Whitmore," he said. "Security check." Richard waved him in impatiently. "Make it quick, Rhodes. We're discussing the gala." Malik moved efficiently around the room, checking window locks and the new security sensors. When he passed behind Olivia's chair, he discreetly placed a folded note beside her water glass. After he left, she slipped the note into her pocket, waiting until she could read it privately. In her office later, she unfolded it to find a simple message. "Looking forward to tomorrow. 7 p.m. at Forsyth Park. She texted back a simple yes to the number he'd included. Thursday evening. Olivia told her father she was meeting a friend for dinner. She changed into a casual dress and sandals, letting her hair down from its usual sophisticated updo. Malik was waiting by the fountain at Forsyth Park, the sunset casting a golden glow over the Spanish moss-draped trees. He'd brought a small picnic basket and blanket. "I thought we could eat here," he explained. "If that's okay." No man had ever prepared a picnic for her before. Her previous relationships had been all about expensive restaurants and being seen at the right places. "It's perfect," she said. They found a quiet spot beneath an oak tree. Malik spread the blanket and unpacked the basket. Fresh bread, cheese, fruit, and a bottle of sparkling water. "No champagne," he said with a smile. "I remembered." As they ate, Olivia found herself relaxing completely. With Malik, there was no need to perform or impress. He asked real questions and listened to her answers as if they mattered. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said as they finished their meal. "You can ask. I might not answer." "Fair enough." She hesitated. "That scar on your shoulder, is that from the fire? The one where you saved that family?" Malik nodded, unconsciously touching his left shoulder through his shirt. "The worst of the burns were here and on my back. The ceiling collapsed while I was carrying the little girl out." "Can I see?" she asked softly. After a moment, he pulled his collar aside, revealing a patch of scarred skin that extended down past his collarbone. Olivia reached out without thinking, her fingers gently touching the edges of the scar. His skin was warm beneath her hand. "Does it still hurt?" "Sometimes, when it rains." She withdrew her hand, suddenly aware of the intimacy of the gesture. "You're a hero, you know that?" "I'm not," he said, readjusting his shirt. "I was just doing what needed to be done." "That's what makes you a hero. You run toward danger when everyone else runs away." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "What about you, Olivia Whitmore? What do you run toward?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know. I've spent most of my life doing what was expected, being who I was supposed to be." "And who are you supposed to be?" "The perfect daughter, the Whitmore heiress. Someone who attends the right schools, joins the right clubs, dates the right men." "And is that who you are?" She looked away. "I don't know anymore. Maybe that's why I'm here with you." Malik was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "For what it's worth, I like who you are right now. Sitting here, being real." As the sky darkened and stars appeared, they talked about everything and nothing. favorite books, childhood memories, places they wanted to visit. When a cool breeze made Olivia shiver, Malik offered her his jacket. It smelled like him, clean with a hint of cedar. "It's getting late," he said eventually. "I should walk you back to your car." Neither of them wanted the evening to end, but they both knew it had to. As they reached Olivia's Mercedes, she turned to face him. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "It was different," he supplied. "Wonderful," she corrected. They stood close, the space between them charged with unspoken feelings. Malik reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Olivia," he said, his voice low, "we should be careful. You know that, right?" "I know, but I don't want to be careful tonight." She moved closer, and Malik hesitated only a moment before lowering his mouth to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as her arms went around his neck. His hands found her waist, drawing her against him. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathless. "I've wanted to do that since the stairwell," he admitted. "Even with everything happening, all I could think was how beautiful you were." Olivia laughed softly. "I was terrified and probably looked terrible. You were real, not a society mask in sight." His thumb traced her lower lip. "That's when I really saw you." The sound of approaching voices made them step apart. A group of tourists passed by, heading toward the park. "I should go," Olivia said reluctantly. "When can I see you again?" "Soon," she promised. Over the next few weeks, they created their own secret world. They met at parks, hidden cafes, and once at a small jazz club on the edge of town where no one would recognize Olivia. They were careful at work, maintaining their professional roles while stealing private moments when they could. Malik took her to his modest apartment in a middle-class neighborhood, where she met Chief, the friendly German shepherd who immediately adopted her as a new best friend. She loved the simple comfort of his home. Bookshelves filled with history books, a worn leather couch, photos of his grandparents on the walls. "It's not what you're used to," he said, watching her explore. "It's a home," she replied. "That's more than I can say for the Whitmore mansion." One rainy Sunday afternoon, they lay on his couch, Chief sleeping on the floor beside them, while Malik read aloud from his favorite novel. Olivia's head rested on his chest. His heartbeat steady beneath her ear. "I could stay here forever," she murmured. Malik's hand stroked her hair. "What are we doing, Olivia?" She looked up at him. "What do you mean?" "This, us. Where is it going? Your father is one of the most powerful men in Savannah. I'm a security officer with a modest apartment and a pension from the fire department. I don't care about that." "You might not, but the world will." He sat up, his expression serious. "I've seen how people look at us when we're together. I know what they're thinking. Let them think what they want. It's not that simple, and you know it." Olivia sat up too, suddenly defensive. "Are you ashamed of being with me?" "God, no." He took her hands in his. "I'm trying to be realistic. You live in a world I can't give you access to." "I don't want that world," she insisted. "I want this, something real." "And what happens when your father finds out? When your friends do? When my bosses at Atlantic Security decide it's inappropriate for me to be involved with a client's daughter?" Olivia hadn't allowed herself to think that far ahead. She'd been living in their bubble, pretending the outside world didn't exist. "We'll figure it out," she said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Malik pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "I just don't want to see you hurt, or lose what you've worked for." "You're worth the risk," she whispered. But the reality of their situation couldn't be ignored forever. The following week, Olivia was having lunch with Bethany when her assistant asked a question she'd been dreading. "What's going on with you and the security guy?" Olivia nearly choked on her salad. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Liv. I see how you look at each other. And Margaret said she saw you two talking in the stairwell last week. We work in the same building. We talk sometimes." Bethany raised an eyebrow. "And that's all?" Olivia sighed. She needed someone to confide in, and Bethany had been her friend since college. "You can't tell anyone, Beth. Promise me." "Of course not. You know me better than that. We've been seeing each other for about a month now." Bethany's eyes widened. "Seriously? What about he's not my type?" I was wrong, Olivia admitted. He's different from anyone I've ever known. Real, honest, and hot, Bethany added with a grin. Olivia laughed. That too. What does your father say? He doesn't know. And he can't find out, Beth. Not yet. Bethany's expression grew serious. You know your father, Liv. He has eyes everywhere. And he has very specific ideas about who his daughter should be with. I'm 28 years old. I can make my own decisions. I know that. But Richard Whitmore still thinks it's 1950 sometimes. He expects you to marry someone from your country club set. Like Preston? Olivia made a face. No, thank you. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying. Your father can make life difficult for Malik, if he wants to. Olivia knew Bethany was right, which only made her more determined to protect what she and Malik had found together. That evening, she went to Malik's apartment after work. As soon as he opened the door, she could tell something was wrong. What is it? She asked, following him inside. Malik ran a hand over his short hair, a gesture she'd come to recognize as a sign of stress. Bob Johnson called me into his office today. Someone complained about me spending too much time on the executive floor. Olivia's stomach dropped. Who complained? He wouldn't say. But he reminded me that Atlantic Security has strict professional boundaries with clients. That's ridiculous. You're the head of security. You need to check all floors. Olivia. His tone made her fall silent. This is what I was worried about. It's starting. She moved closer, wrapping her arms around his waist. We'll be more careful. That's all. He held her tight, his chin resting on top of her head. I don't want to lose this job. I need it. You won't lose it, she promised. I won't let that happen. But the pressure continued to build. Twice more that week, Malik was called into meetings about his duties and reminded to maintain appropriate professional distance from the Whitmore family. Olivia noticed her father watching her more closely, asking pointed questions about her schedule and whereabouts. The foundation gala was approaching, the biggest event of the year for the Whitmore family. Traditionally, Olivia attended with a date, usually someone her father approved of. This year, she hadn't mentioned bringing anyone. I assume you'll be attending the gala with Preston, Richard said one morning as they reviewed the guest list in his office. I saw you two dancing at the Henderson's charity dinner. Seemed like you were getting along again. I'm not getting back together with Preston, Daddy. He's a good match, Olivia. The Chapmans are one of the oldest families in Savannah. He's boring and shallow. Richard frowned. Then who are you bringing? The gala is in 2 weeks. I thought I'd go alone this year. Focus on the donors. Her father studied her face. Margaret tells me you've been spending a lot of time in the building lately. Working late. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Olivia kept her expression neutral. The foundation applications needed review, and I'm trying to get more exercise. Richard leaned back in his chair. Bob Johnson mentioned something interesting yesterday about one of his security officers, the one who helped you during the break-in. Olivia's heart raced. Mr. Rhodes? What about him? Bob says he's a good employee. Professional. Reliable. Richard watched her carefully. He also mentioned that Rhodes spends an unusual amount of time on the executive floor. He's head of security. That's his job. Is it his job to meet you in the stairwell? To leave notes at your office door? Olivia froze. Someone had been watching them. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Richard's expression hardened. Don't lie to me. Olivia, are you involved with this man? She considered denying it again, but what was the point? Her father clearly already knew. His name is Malik, she said, and yes, we've been seeing each other. Richard stood, his face flushing with anger. Have you lost your mind? He's a security guard. He's a former firefighter who saved a family from a burning building. He's kind and honest and decent. And he saved my life, or have you forgotten that? I'm grateful for what he did. That doesn't mean he belongs in your world. Maybe I don't want to be in my world anymore, Daddy. Maybe I want something real for a change. Richard slammed his hand on the desk. This stops now, Olivia. I won't have my daughter throwing away everything I've built for some. Some what? She challenged. Some black man who doesn't have a trust fund? Is that what this is really about? Don't you dare accuse me of that, Richard snapped. This is about what's appropriate. What makes sense for your future? My future is my decision, not yours. As long as you work for this company and live under my roof. Then maybe I shouldn't do either anymore, Olivia interrupted, surprising herself with the words. Richard stared at her. You don't mean that. I do. She stood, gathering her dignity. I love Malik, Daddy, and nothing you say is going to change that. She turned to leave, but her father's next words stopped her cold. If you continue this relationship, I'll make sure Rhodes never works in security again. Not in Savannah, not anywhere. Olivia turned back, shocked. You wouldn't? Try me? Richard's expression was cold. Atlantic Security has contracts with most of my properties. One word from me, and Bob Johnson will fire him today. And in this business, reputation is everything. One bad reference, and he's done. That's blackmail. That's business, Olivia. And it's time you learn how the real world works. She left without another word, tears blurring her vision as she hurried down the hallway. In the bathroom, she locked herself in a stall and called Malik. We need to talk, she said when he answered. My father knows. They agreed to meet at a small park after work. When Olivia arrived, Malik was already there, sitting on a bench with a troubled expression. Bob Johnson called me in again, he said as she sat beside him. He wanted to know if there was anything going on between us. Said he'd heard rumors. My father threatened to have you fired, Olivia said, and to make sure you couldn't work in security anywhere else. Malik wasn't surprised. I figured something like that would happen eventually. I told him I love you, she admitted, that I wouldn't give you up. His eyes softened and he took her hand. I love you too, but I don't want to be the reason you lose your family. My father isn't much of a family. He never has been. He's still your father. They sat in silence, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. I could quit the foundation, Olivia suggested. Get my own place. I have some savings. And then what? Your father would still be Richard Whitmore. He'd still have the power to hurt you, to hurt us. So we just give up? Let him win. Malik sighed, looking out across the park. I got a call yesterday from the Atlanta Fire Department. Olivia tensed. What do they want? They're starting a new program for firefighters who had to retire because of injuries. Training positions. Teaching new recruits. He paused. They offered me a spot. In Atlanta? He nodded. It's what I've been waiting for. A chance to get back to what I love, even if I can't be on the front lines anymore. Olivia felt like she couldn't breathe. When would you start? 2 weeks. If I accept, are you going to? Malik turned to face her, his expression torn. I don't know. I never expected to meet someone like you, to feel this way. Then don't go, she pleaded. We'll figure something out here. Your father will make my life hell. Olivia, you know that, and yours too. I don't care. But I do. He cupped her face in his hands. I care about your happiness, your future. You are my future, she insisted. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Could they really build a life together with her father actively working against them? Would Malik resent her if he gave up this opportunity to return to the career he loved? I need to think, Malik said finally. And so do you. This isn't just about us anymore. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She paced her room in the Whitmore mansion, feeling trapped by the luxury surrounding her. Everything she owned, everything she was, had been shaped by her father's wealth and expectations. Who would she be without all this? And more importantly, who did she want to be? The next morning, she arrived at the office to find her security access had been revoked. The receptionist looked uncomfortable as she explained that Mr. Whitmore had instructed her to direct Olivia to his office immediately. In his office, Richard sat behind his massive desk, his expression grim. I've removed your access to the Foundation accounts temporarily, he said without preamble, until you come to your senses. Olivia stared at him in disbelief. You can't do that. Those grants need to be processed this week. Then I suggest you reconsider your position regarding Mr. Rhodes. You're using charity money to blackmail me? Money that's supposed to honor Sam's memory? Richard had the grace to look slightly ashamed, but he didn't back down. I'm protecting you from making a terrible mistake. The only mistake I've made is thinking you actually cared about my happiness. I care about your future. Olivia, this man can't give you the life you deserve. You don't know what I deserve, or what I want. She turned to leave, but her father's voice stopped her. He's leaving anyway, you know. Johnson told me Rhodes gave us 2 weeks' notice this morning, taking a job in Atlanta. Olivia felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Malik had made his decision without telling her. You're lying, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Call him yourself if you don't believe me. She did, as soon as she left her father's office. Malik answered on the third ring. Is it true? She asked without preamble. Did you accept the Atlanta job? His silence was answer enough. You weren't even going to tell me first? I was, he said. Tonight, I wanted to explain in person. Explain what? That you're giving up on us. That's not fair, Olivia. This job is everything I've been working toward since the fire, and with your father threatening my career here. So you're running away. I'm making the best choice I can with an impossible situation, he said, his voice tight with emotion. I love you, but love isn't always enough in the real world. When do you leave? She asked, fighting back tears. Training starts next Monday. I'll be gone by the weekend. For days. She had 4 days left with him. Olivia, he said when she didn't respond. Are you still there? I need to go, she whispered and hung up. She spent the rest of the day in a daze, going through the motions at work. That evening, she drove to Malik's apartment, needing to see him to understand. He opened the door looking as miserable as she felt. Chief bounded up to greet her, unaware of the tension between them. I'm sorry, Malik said immediately. I should have talked to you before accepting the job. Olivia moved past him into the apartment, noticing a half-packed box on the coffee table. The sight made everything painfully real. Why, Malik? Why give up so easily? Easily? He shook his head. There's nothing easy about this decision. But your father made it clear what would happen if I stayed. We could fight him. For how long? At what cost? He'd make your life miserable. He'd cut you off from everything you've known. I don't care about the money, she insisted. It's not just about money. It's about your family, your foundation work, your whole life here in Savannah. And what about you? Would you really be happy knowing you let my father drive you away? Malik ran a hand over his face. No, but I wouldn't be happy watching him destroy you either. They argued in circles, both hurt, both afraid, neither seeing a clear path forward. Finally, exhausted, they fell silent. I need to know, Olivia said at last. Do you want to come with you? To Atlanta? Malik looked surprised. You'd do that if you asked me to. He moved closer, taking her hands in his. I can't ask you to give up everything for me, Olivia. That's not an answer. He took a deep breath. I love you, more than I thought possible. But I don't want you to resent me later for taking you away from your life. So that's a no. It's me trying to do what's right for both of us, he said, even if it hurts now. Olivia pulled her hands away, anger replacing her sadness. You're a coward, Malik Rhodes. You talk about doing the right thing, but you're just scared. Scared of what people will think. Scared of my father. Scared of us. That's not true, he protested. Isn't it? You're running away to Atlanta instead of fighting for what we have. Your father threatened to destroy my career. What am I supposed to do? Stand and fight, she shouted, like you did in that burning building, like you did in the stairwell when those men attacked me. Why was I worth saving then, but not now? Malik looked stricken. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I thought you were different. I thought what we had was worth fighting for. Olivia, save it. She moved toward the door. Enjoy Atlanta. She left before he could see her completely break down, driving aimlessly through Savannah's streets as tears blurred her vision. Eventually, she found herself at the riverfront, watching boats drift along the water as the sun set. Her phone buzzed with messages from Malik, but she couldn't bear to read them. Not yet. The pain was too raw, the sense of betrayal too fresh. As darkness fell, she finally returned to her car and drove. Not to Whitmore Mansion, but to Bethany's apartment. She couldn't face her father tonight. Couldn't bear to see the satisfaction in his eyes. Bethany took one look at her tear-stained face and pulled her into a hug. "Oh, Liv, what happened?" "He's leaving," Olivia managed between sobs. "Going to Atlanta. He gave up on us." Inside, Bethany made her tea and listened as Olivia poured out the whole story. Her father's threats, Malik's job offer, their fight. "Maybe he's right," Bethany said gently when Olivia finished. "Your father is powerful, Liv. He can make things very difficult for both of you. So I should just let Malik go? Pretend these past weeks never happened." "I didn't say that." Bethany squeezed her hand. "But maybe you need to think about what you really want. Not just Malik, but your whole life. If you left Savannah with him, what would that mean? Are you ready for that kind of change?" Olivia hadn't allowed herself to think that far ahead. She'd been living in the moment, enjoying the connection they'd found without considering the future. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know I can't imagine my life without him now." "Then maybe that's your answer." Olivia spent a restless night on Bethany's couch, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. By morning, she'd made a decision. She would go to Atlanta with Malik. If he still wanted her to, she would leave behind her father's controlling influence, the shallow social world she'd never truly fit into, all of it. But first, she needed to make peace with her father if possible, to make him understand. She drove to the Whitmore building, rehearsing what she would say. But as she entered the lobby, she was greeted by a scene of commotion. Police officers stood talking with security staff. Bob Johnson was gesturing animatedly. And there was Malik, his expression grim as he spoke with a detective. Olivia approached cautiously. "What's happening?" Malik looked up, surprise and relief crossing his face. "Olivia, there's been another break-in attempt. More serious this time." "When? Was anyone hurt?" "Early this morning. And no, the alarm system worked. But they got further than before." Bob Johnson interrupted. "Miss Whitmore, your father's looking for you. He's quite concerned." "Where is he?" "His office." "Rhodes, I need you to show the officers the security footage." Malik hesitated, his eyes still on Olivia. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Later," she promised. "I need to see my father first." The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. When she finally reached her father's office, she found him pacing, phone in hand. "Olivia, where have you been?" "I've been calling all night." "I stayed at Bethany's," she said. "I needed to think." Richard's anger visibly deflated, replaced by genuine concern. "You heard about the break-in?" "Just now." "What happened?" 3 men tried to access the executive floor. They had tools to bypass the security system, but Rhodes's upgrades caught them. He shook his head. "The police think it's the same group from before, but better equipped." "Is anything missing?" "No, they didn't get that far. But it's concerning." Richard studied her face. "You look terrible, Olivia." "Thanks, Daddy," she said dryly. He sighed, running a hand through his silver hair. "I'm sorry about yesterday. I shouldn't have threatened your foundation access. That was wrong of me." The apology surprised her. Why the change of heart? "Rhodes came to see me last night. After you left this place, I assume." Olivia stared at her father. "Malik came here? What did he say?" "He told me he loves you, that he's taking the Atlanta job to protect you from having to choose between him and your family." Richard's expression was unreadable. "He said I should be proud to have raised a daughter with such a good heart, that you deserve better than him walking away without a fight." Emotions war within Olivia. Surprise, hope, confusion. "And what did you say?" "I told him he was right about one thing. You do have a good heart. Too good sometimes." Richard moved to the window, looking out over the city he'd helped build. "You're like your mother that way." The mention of her mother startled Olivia. Richard rarely spoke of his ex-wife. Your mother left because I was too focused on building an empire, he continued quietly. I thought I was creating a legacy for our family, but I lost sight of the family itself. He turned to face Olivia. I don't want to make the same mistake with you. What are you saying, Daddy? I'm saying I was wrong to threaten Rhodes. Wrong to try to control your life. He took a deep breath. If he makes you happy, truly happy, then I won't stand in your way. Olivia couldn't believe what she was hearing. You mean that? I do. It won't be easy. People will talk. But you've never backed down from a challenge. A small smile crossed his face. Another quality you got from me. Tears filled Olivia's eyes as she moved to embrace her father. Thank you, Daddy. He held her tight, then pulled back to look at her. But if you're going to follow him to Atlanta, you'd better hurry. Bob says he's leaving right after his shift today. Olivia checked her watch. That's in 2 hours. Then what are you waiting for? She kissed her father's cheek and rushed to the door, then paused. The foundation will be waiting for you, whether you're in Savannah or Atlanta. Richard assured her, we can make it work. For the first time in years, Olivia felt like her father truly saw her, not as an extension of himself or the Whitmore legacy, but as her own person, with her own heart to follow. She found Malik in the security office, reviewing footage with the police. When he saw her, he excused himself and stepped into the hallway. Your father told me you came to see him last night, she said without preamble. Malik nodded. I had to try. One last time. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to get your hopes up. He studied her face. You're not still angry? I'm furious, she said, stepping closer. You were going to leave without fighting for us. I know. I was wrong. His eyes held hers. That's what I realized last night. You were right. Some things are worth fighting for. My father says he won't stand in our way. Hope flickered in Malik's expression. Really? Really? She took his hands in hers. So now the question is, do you still want me to come to Atlanta with you? More than anything, he said without hesitation. But are you sure? It's a big change. I've never been more sure of anything. She smiled through tears. You're not my type, Malik Rhodes. And that's exactly why I love you. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he'd never let go. I love you too, Olivia Whitmore, more than you'll ever know. As they stood there in the hallway, neither cared who might see them. Their worlds had collided, changed each other, and created something new, something real, something worth fighting for. And in that moment, Olivia knew she'd finally found her true home. Not in a mansion or penthouse, but in the arms of a man brave enough to run into burning buildings, and brave enough to love her for exactly who she was. Atlanta was nothing like Savannah. Bigger, busier, with towering skyscrapers instead of historic mansions. As Olivia drove through the city streets following Malik's pickup truck, Chief's head hanging out the passenger window, she felt equal parts terrified and exhilarated. This was really happening. She had packed up her life. 2 suitcases of clothes, a box of personal items, and her laptop, and left behind everything familiar. For love, they pulled into the parking lot of a modest apartment complex. Not run down, but certainly not the luxury high-rise Olivia had imagined when Malik mentioned his place in Atlanta. It's temporary, Malik explained as he helped unload her bags. The department helps with housing for the first month, while new trainers get settled. Chief bounded around them, excited by the new surroundings. Olivia scratched behind his ears, grateful for his enthusiastic welcome. It's fine, she assured Malik, though her stomach tightened with anxiety. I don't need anything fancy. Inside, the apartment was small but clean, a living room with basic furniture, a kitchenette, 1 bedroom, and a bathroom. The beige walls were bare, the carpet worn but vacuumed. I know it's not what you're used to, Malik said, watching her face carefully. Olivia set down her purse and turned to him with a smile. It's perfect, because you're here. He pulled her into his arms, his expression a mix of love and concern. Are you sure about this, Olivia? It's not too late to change your mind. I'm sure. She rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. This is where I want to be. That night, they lay in bed together, Chief snoring softly from his dog bed in the corner. Malik's arm curved protectively around Olivia's waist. "What are you thinking?" he asked, noticing her pensive expression. "That this is the first night of my adult life I haven't spent in Savannah," she said. "It feels strange, but good strange. Tomorrow I'll show you around the neighborhood. There's a nice park nearby for Chief and a coffee shop I think you'll like." "And you start training on Monday?" He nodded. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. The program lasts 12 weeks. "And then what?" "Then I become a full-time instructor, teaching new recruits about fire safety, rescue techniques, everything I learned in the field." Olivia traced a scar on his shoulder. "You'll be amazing at it. You have so much to teach them." "What about you?" he asked. "Have you thought about what you want to do here?" The question had been lingering in her mind since she decided to follow Malik to Atlanta. In Savannah, her identity had been clear. Olivia Whitmore, daughter of Richard Whitmore, director of the Whitmore Foundation. Here, she was just Olivia. "I can work remotely for the foundation for now," she said. "Daddy promised that. But long term, I'm not sure yet." "You'll figure it out," Malik said, kissing her forehead. "You're the strongest woman I know." His confidence in her was touching, but as she drifted off to sleep, Olivia wondered if she really was as strong as he believed. The first week passed in a blur of adjustment. Olivia set up a small workspace in the corner of the living room, coordinating with her father and Bethany via video calls. Malik began his training position, coming home each evening energized and full of stories about the recruits and fellow instructors. "They asked me to develop a new training module," he told her excitedly one evening, "about how to handle ceiling collapses, based on my experience." "That's wonderful," Olivia said, genuinely happy for him. Malik was thriving in his new role, his passion for firefighting rekindled even if he couldn't be on the front lines anymore. But while Malik settled easily into his new life, Olivia struggled to find her footing. The apartment felt confining after the spacious Whitmore mansion. The city was overwhelming, full of unfamiliar streets and faces. And most challenging of all was the isolation. In Savannah, she'd had her social circle, her routines, her place in the community. Here, she knew no one except Malik. She didn't want to burden him with her doubts. He was so happy, so fulfilled by his new position, and he'd given up so much for her already, standing up to her father, risking his career. She couldn't let him see her struggle, so she put on a brave face, exploring the neighborhood while he was at work, taking Chief for long walks, and trying to make the apartment feel more like home with small touches. A vase of fresh flowers, new throw pillows, framed photos of them together. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after their move, Olivia was working on foundation reports when her father called. "How's Atlanta?" Richard asked. His voice grew up concerned. "Different, bigger than Savannah." "And Rhodes? How's his new position?" "Malik is doing great, Daddy. They already have him developing new training programs." "Good, good." Richard paused. "And what about you, Olivia? Are you happy there?" The question caught her off guard. Her father rarely asked directly about her happiness. "I'm adjusting," she said carefully. "It's a big change. Your assistant misses you. The whole office does. I miss everyone, too." "The police made an arrest in the break-in case," Richard said, changing the subject. 3 men, part of a professional theft ring targeting high-value businesses. They were after our client files, information they could sell to competitors. "That's good news. I'm glad they were caught." Rhodes' security upgrades made the difference. The man knows his job. Another pause. "The Foundation Gala is next month. I was hoping you might come back for it. Bring Rhodes if you want." Olivia was touched by the invitation. "I like that, Daddy. I'll talk to Malik about it." After hanging up, she sat lost in thought. The mention of Savannah had awakened a sharp pang of homesickness. She missed the Spanish moss-draped trees, the historic squares, even the familiar faces at social events she claimed to despise. When Malik came home that evening, she told him about her father's call and the invitation to the gala. "We should go," he said immediately. "It's important to you. Are you sure? The last time you saw those people was when I was just a security guy." He smiled. Now I'm the man who loves Olivia Whitmore, and I'm not afraid to show it. His confidence warmed her heart. I love you, you know that? I had some idea. He kissed her, then pulled back with a curious expression. Is everything okay? You seem a little off lately. I'm fine, she insisted, just adjusting to the big city. But that night, as Malik slept beside her, Olivia stared at the ceiling, facing the truth she'd been avoiding. She was struggling more than she wanted to admit. She loved Malik deeply, but she missed having a purpose, a community, a role that was hers alone. The next morning, determined to shake off her melancholy, Olivia decided to explore beyond their immediate neighborhood. She took Chief and ventured further into the city, finding herself in a vibrant area full of small businesses and community centers. A colorful sign caught her eye: East Atlanta Community Foundation, Volunteers Welcome. On impulse, she tied Chief to a bike rack and went inside. The small office was bustling with activity. People sorting donations, answering phones, reviewing paperwork. A middle-aged black woman with silver-streaked hair looked up from the front desk. Can I help you? I saw your sign about volunteers, Olivia explained. I have experience with foundation work and grant writing. The woman's eyebrows rose with interest. Do you now? I'm Denise Washington, director of the ACF. And you are Olivia Whitmore. Well, Olivia Whitmore, we can certainly use someone with grant writing experience. Our youth program needs funding, and none of us have time to write a proper proposal. Before she knew it, Olivia was sitting at a desk with a stack of papers, reviewing the Community Foundation's programs and needs. Hours passed as she immersed herself in the work, feeling useful for the first time since leaving Savannah. You've got a talent for this, Denise commented, looking over Olivia's draft of a grant proposal. Where did you learn? I work for my family's foundation in Savannah, Olivia explained. The Whitmore Foundation. Recognition flickered in Denise's eyes. Whitmore, as in Richard Whitmore, the real estate developer? He's my father. Denise studied her with new interest. And what brings Richard Whitmore's daughter to our little community foundation in East Atlanta? I recently moved here with my partner. He's a training instructor with the Atlanta Fire Department. And you're looking for something meaningful to do. Denise guessed. Olivia nodded, surprised by the woman's perception. Yes, exactly. Well, we can't pay much. In fact, most of us are volunteers. But we could use someone with your expertise 2 or 3 days a week. If you're interested. I'd love that, Olivia said, realizing how true it was. This small, underfunded community foundation was nothing like the prestigious Whitmore Foundation, but the work was real and necessary. When she told Malik about her new volunteer position that evening, his face lit up with pride. That's perfect for you, he said. You've always been happiest when you're helping others. It's just 2 days a week to start, she said. But Denise, the director, says they have connections with other community organizations that might need grant writing help too. For the first time since arriving in Atlanta, Olivia felt a sense of purpose, a direction for her new life. She threw herself into the work, using her experience to help the small foundation secure funding for after-school programs, community gardens, and senior services. The days fell into a comfortable routine. Malik left early for the training center, while Olivia either worked remotely for the Whitmore Foundation or went to the community center. In the evenings, they shared stories about their day over simple home-cooked meals. Malik was teaching Olivia to cook, a skill she'd never needed in a household with staff. Their life wasn't glamorous. No charity galas or country club brunches, but it felt genuine in a way Olivia's existence in Savannah never had. As the date of the Whitmore Foundation Gala approached, Olivia found herself both excited and apprehensive about returning to Savannah. She and Malik had been in Atlanta for nearly 2 months, long enough to establish a life together, but not so long that she'd forgotten the judgmental whispers and disapproving glances they faced before leaving. Are you nervous about the gala? She asked Malik as they packed for a weekend trip. A little, he admitted. Last time I was at an event like that, I was checking security cameras, not drinking champagne with the guests. You'll charm them all, she assured him. Just be your wonderful self. And what about you? Are you ready to face Savannah society as Olivia Whitmore, rebel daughter who ran off with a security guard? She laughed. When you put it that way, it sounds quite scandalous. It is scandalous, he said, pulling her close. That's what makes it fun. They drove to Savannah the day before the gala, planning to stay at Olivia's old room in the Whitmore mansion. As they pulled into the long driveway, Olivia felt a strange mix of nostalgia and detachment. This place had been her home for most of her life, yet now it felt like visiting a museum, beautiful but no longer quite real. Richard was waiting on the front steps, his expression carefully neutral as they parked and got out of the car. "Daddy," Olivia said, embracing him, "it's good to see you." "You too, sweetheart." He turned to Malik, extending his hand. "Rhodes, welcome back to Savannah." "Thank you, sir. Appreciate the invitation." It was awkward at first, the three of them navigating this new dynamic. But as the evening progressed, with dinner in the formal dining room and drinks in Richard's study afterward, the tension gradually eased. "Atlanta's fire department is lucky to have you," Richard told Malik as they discussed his new position. "Your security work here was exemplary." "Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. That means a lot." Richard turned to Olivia. "And you, young lady, Bethany tells me you're working with a community foundation in Atlanta?" "Just volunteer work, Daddy. They need help with grant writing." Richard swirled his bourbon thoughtfully. "The Whitmore Foundation could establish a satellite office in Atlanta, you know, if you were interested in something more permanent." Olivia exchanged a surprised glance with Malik. "You want to expand to Atlanta?" "Why not? It's a growing market, and we'd have a trusted director already in place." Richard looked almost shy, an expression Olivia had rarely seen on her father's face. "If you wanted the position, that is." The offer was unexpected but tempting. A chance to continue her foundation work with proper resources, while building a life with Malik in Atlanta. "I'd need to think about it," she said. "But thank you, Daddy. It means a lot that you trust me with that." Later, in her old bedroom, Olivia and Malik discussed the offer. "It's a good opportunity," Malik said. "You'd be amazing at it." "It feels like he's trying to keep me connected to the Whitmore name," she mused. "But maybe that's not such a bad thing. I do miss the foundation work." "Whatever you decide, I support you," Malik assured her. "Just make sure it's what you want, not what your father wants." The next evening was a foundation gala, held at Savannah's most elegant hotel. Olivia wore a simple but striking blue gown, while Malik looked handsome in a classic black tuxedo. As they entered the ballroom, heads turned and whispers spread. "Ignore them," Malik murmured, his hand steady at the small of her back. "You look beautiful." Richard approached, champagne in hand. "Olivia, there are some donors who've been asking for you. Mind if I steal you for a moment?" "Of course." She turned to Malik. "Will you be okay?" "I'll be fine. Go do your thing." As Olivia made the round with her father, she was surprised by how many people expressed genuine pleasure at seeing her. Yes, there were curious glances toward Malik, standing tall and confident near the bar, but the open hostility she'd feared didn't materialize. "You've got guts, girl," said Eleanor Matthews, one of Savannah's oldest and wealthiest matriarchs. "Running off to Atlanta with that handsome young man. Good for you." "Thank you, Mrs. Matthews. That means a lot." "Your young man, Malik, is it? He seemed like a fine person. Much more substance than that Preston fellow you used to date." Across the room, Olivia saw Preston himself, looking slightly tipsy as he chatted up a young blonde woman. He caught Olivia's eye and raised his glass in a mocking toast. She simply nodded and turned away. The evening progressed smoothly until dinner, when guests were seated at assigned tables. Olivia and Malik were placed at the head table with Richard and several important donors. As they took their seats, a middle-aged man with a florid face frowned at Malik. "Aren't you the security fellow?" he asked loudly. "What are you doing at this table?" A hush fell over nearby conversations. Olivia tensed, ready to defend Malik, but her father spoke first. "James, this is Malik Rhodes, my daughter's partner and my guest tonight," Richard said firmly. "He's also the man who saved her life during that break-in attempt." if you recall. The man looked embarrassed. Of course, of course. No offense meant. None taken, Malik replied with dignity. Richard tapped his glass for attention and stood. While I have everyone's attention, I'd like to say a few words. The room quieted as Richard surveyed the crowd. Savannah's elite, people who had known the Whitmore family for generations. The Whitmore Foundation was established in memory of my son, Sam, who believed that everyone deserves a chance to build a good life. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that we're expanding our work to Atlanta under the leadership of my daughter, Olivia. Surprised murmurs rippled through the room. Olivia looked up at her father, equally shocked. They had discussed the possibility, but she hadn't given him an answer yet. Olivia has shown me, Richard continued, that true character isn't about where you come from or who your family is. It's about the choices you make and the people you choose to love. His gaze moved to Malik, then back to Olivia. I couldn't be prouder of the woman she's become. So please join me in a toast to Olivia and Malik and in new beginnings. Glasses rose around the room. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes as she stood to embrace her father. Thank you, Daddy, she whispered. I should have done this months ago, he replied. I was too stubborn to see what was right in front of me. Later, as the band played and couples moved to the dance floor, Malik led Olivia into a slow dance. Your father surprised me tonight, he admitted. That announcement about the Atlanta office. Me too. I hadn't even decided yet. Are you going to accept? Olivia thought about it, swaying gently in his arms. I think I will, but I want to keep working with Denise's community foundation too. There's so much need there. You could partner the organizations, Malik suggested. Bring Whitmore resources to support local community efforts. That's brilliant. She looked up at him with admiration. Have I told you lately how lucky I am to have found you? About as lucky as I am to have found you, he replied, dipping his head to kiss her softly. The evening was nearly perfect, until Olivia spotted a familiar face across the room. A face that didn't belong at a charity gala. Malik, she said quietly. Don't turn around, but there's a man by the bar, tall beard, scar above his eye. He was one of the men arrested for the break-in at Daddy's building. Malik's body tensed. Are you sure? Positive. I gave a statement to the police. I'll never forget his face. Stay here, Malik instructed, guiding her to a seat near her father. Don't draw attention to yourself. He moved casually toward the bar, pulling out his phone as if checking messages. Olivia watched anxiously as he positioned himself to get a better look at the suspicious man. The bearded man must have sensed something because he suddenly turned, locked eyes with Malik, and bolted toward a side exit. Malik immediately gave chase, all his security training evident in his swift response. What's happening? Richard asked, noticing Olivia's distress. One of the break-in suspects is here, she explained hurriedly. Malik went after him. Richard immediately signaled to the event security staff, who rushed toward the exit Malik had taken. Olivia followed, her heart pounding with fear for Malik's safety. Outside in the hotel garden, she heard shouting, then a crash. She ran toward the sound, her evening gown billowing around her, and found Malik struggling with the bearded man near a fountain. As she watched in horror, the man pulled something from his jacket, a knife glinting in the garden lights. Malik, she screamed. He ducked as the knife slashed toward him, then delivered a powerful punch that sent the attacker staggering backward. The man lost his balance, falling into the fountain with a splash. Security guards arrived seconds later, pulling the sputtering, cursing man from the water. Malik turned to Olivia, breathing hard but unharmed. Are you okay? Am I okay? She echoed incredulously. You're the one who just fought a man with a knife. Old habits, he said with a slight smile, though his eyes remained serious. Once a firefighter, always running toward danger. The police arrived quickly, taking the man into custody. As they gave their statements, an officer explained that the suspect had been released on bail pending trial and apparently had come to the gala seeking revenge against Richard Whitmore and anyone associated with him. You too should be careful, the officer warned. This guy has connections. There might be others. Back inside, the gala continued, most guests unaware of the drama that had unfolded in the garden. Richard pulled Olivia and Malik aside, his face grave. "I don't like this," he said. "If they're targeting my family now..." "We'll be careful, Daddy," Olivia assured him. "We're going back to Atlanta tomorrow anyway." "Maybe you should stay in Savannah," Richard suggested, "where I can ensure your security." "We have a life in Atlanta now," Malik said firmly, "and I know how to keep Olivia safe." Richard looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. "At least take some additional security measures. I'll have Bob Johnson arrange something." As they drove back to Atlanta the next day, Olivia couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The incident at the gala had shattered the sense of security she'd been building in her new life with Malik. "Do you think we're really in danger?" she asked as they crossed the Georgia state line. "It's possible," Malik admitted, "but we'll take precautions. I'll install a better security system at the apartment. You'll need to be aware of your surroundings, especially when you're alone. It feels like we can't escape Savannah's shadows, even in Atlanta." Malik reached across to squeeze her hand. "Hey, we've faced worse and come through it. We'll handle this too." His confidence reassured her, but as they returned to their apartment in Atlanta, Olivia couldn't help wondering if the life they were building together was about to face its greatest test yet. The next week brought changes. True to his word, Richard arranged for enhanced security at their apartment building. Nothing intrusive, but a professional system that Malik approved of. Olivia started working on plans for the Atlanta branch of the Whitmore Foundation, while continuing her volunteer work with Denise's community organization. One evening, as they were having dinner, Malik's phone rang. He frowned at the number before answering. "Rhodes," he said, then listened intently. "I see. Yes, I understand. Thank you for letting me know." He hung up, his expression troubled. "What is it?" Olivia asked. "That was Bob Johnson from Atlantic Security. The man from the gala. His name is Victor Parnell. He's part of a larger criminal organization that's been targeting high-value businesses across the Southeast. The police found evidence that they're planning something big, and your father's companies are on their list." "What kind of something big?" "They don't know exactly, but it's more than just stealing client information." Malik ran a hand over his face. "Bob thinks they might be planning some kind of attack on your father himself." Fear clutched at Olivia's heart. "We have to warn him." "Bob's already increased security at all Whitmore properties. Your father is being careful." "I should go back to Savannah," Olivia said, already mentally packing. "Olivia, that might be exactly what they want, to draw you back there." She hadn't considered that. "You think I might be a target too?" "I think we both need to be cautious. These people have already shown they're willing to get violent." Olivia called her father, relieved when he answered immediately. "Daddy, Malik just heard from Bob Johnson about Victor Parnell and his organization." "I know, sweetheart. Don't worry about me. I've got security with me round the clock." "Maybe you should come to Atlanta for a while," she suggested. "Stay with us until this blows over." Richard chuckled. "In that tiny apartment of yours? I don't think so. Besides, I'm not running from these thugs. The police are close to making more arrests." After hanging up, Olivia turned to Malik, frustration evident on her face. "He's being stubborn. He won't leave Savannah." "He's a proud man," Malik said, "but he's not stupid. He'll be careful." That night, as they lay in bed, Olivia curled against Malik's side, seeking comfort in his solid presence. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not just for Daddy, but for us, for this life we're building." Malik's arms tightened around her. "I know, but we're together. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." "I could have lost you," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "because of my business dealings." "It wasn't your fault, Mr. Whitmore," Malik said. "These people were criminals. You did the right thing, helping the authorities." Richard looked at Malik with newfound respect. "Bob Johnson told me what you did today. You saved my daughter's life. Again." "Chief deserves most of the credit," Malik said, nodding toward the German shepherd. Richard smiled faintly. "Remind me to buy that dog the biggest bone in Atlanta." That night, after Richard had gone to a hotel, promising to return the next day. Olivia and Malik lay awake in bed, processing the day's events. "I keep thinking about what could have happened," Olivia said softly. "If you hadn't come home when you did..." Malik pulled her closer. "But I did, and you're safe. Because of you. Again." She raised herself on one elbow to look down at him. "You're always saving me, Malik Rhodes. And you saved me right back," he said seriously. "From a life where I was just going through the motions. You gave me something to live for, not just something to protect." The following weeks passed in a blur of police statements, security upgrades, and emotional processing. The criminal organization was dismantled, its leaders facing lengthy prison sentences. Life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an ordeal. Olivia threw herself into establishing the Atlanta branch of the Whitmore Foundation, working closely with Denise's community organization to identify local needs. Richard visited frequently, taking a personal interest in the Atlanta operation and developing a cautious respect for Malik. 4 months after the attack, Olivia and Malik attended a charity gala in Atlanta, this one benefiting the fire department's Family Support Fund. It was their first major public event as a couple in Atlanta, and Olivia was nervous. "What if they treat us the same way people did in Savannah?" she asked as they dressed in their apartment. "The stares, the whispers." "Atlanta isn't Savannah," Malik reminded her, adjusting his tie. "And anyway, who cares what they think? We know what we have." The ballroom was filled with firefighters, city officials, and wealthy donors. Malik was greeted warmly by his colleagues from the training center, who welcomed Olivia with genuine friendliness. "Rhodes is the best instructor we've had in years," one older firefighter told her. "These rookies actually listen to him because they know he's been to the fire, literally." As they mingled, Olivia noticed how at ease Malik seemed here, among people who respected him for his skills and character rather than his wealth or social standing. He belonged in this world in a way he never had in hers. The fire chief called for attention and began recognizing various department members for their contributions. To Malik's surprise, his name was called. "Malik Rhodes has revolutionized our safety training program in just 6 months," the chief announced. His ceiling collapse survival protocol has been adopted by 3 other major city departments. "Malik, come up here." As Malik made his way to the podium, Olivia felt a surge of pride. This was the real Malik. Not the quiet security guard people had dismissed in Savannah, but a respected professional whose expertise saved lives. Later that evening, as they danced, Malik seemed distant, lost in thought. "What is it?" she asked. "You've been somewhere else all night." He hesitated, then said, "The chief offered me a promotion today, head of training and safety for the entire department." "Malik, that's wonderful," Olivia exclaimed. "You deserve it. There's more." He took a deep breath. "The National Firefighter Training Institute in Chicago saw my protocols. They've offered me a position developing safety programs that would be implemented nationwide." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. "Chicago, it's an incredible opportunity. I could help shape training for firefighters across the country. Save lives on a scale I never imagined. When would you start?" "They want me in a month." Olivia tried to process this. Chicago was nearly 700 miles from Atlanta, even further from Savannah. A long-distance relationship, moving again, so soon after they'd established themselves in Atlanta. "What did you tell them?" she asked. "That I needed to talk to you first." His eyes searched hers. "It's a big decision. For both of us." Before she could respond, they were interrupted by the chief, who wanted to introduce Malik to some visiting officials. The conversation was left hanging, unresolved. On the drive home, Olivia was quiet, thinking about what a move to Chicago would mean. She'd just gotten the Atlanta Foundation office up and running. She'd made friends, built connections with Denise and the community organization. The thought of starting over again was exhausting. "We need to talk about Chicago," she said finally as they entered their apartment. Malik nodded, his expression serious. "I know." They sat on the couch, Chief settling at their feet with a contented sigh. "Tell me honestly," Olivia said, "do you want to take this job?" "Part of me does," Malik admitted. "The work would be meaningful, important. And the other part? is afraid of what it would mean for us. He took her hands in his. I don't want to lose you, Olivia, but I also don't want to look back years from now and wonder what might have been if I'd taken this chance. Olivia understood that feeling all too well. Wasn't that exactly why she'd followed him to Atlanta? To avoid the regret of not taking a chance on love? Could I come with you? She asked. To Chicago? Of course. I'd want that more than anything. But I know what you've built here. The foundation branch, your work with Denise, your father finally accepting us, visiting regularly. Malik sighed. I wouldn't ask you to give all that up. Not again. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we need to consider other options, like a long-distance relationship, at least for a while. The suggestion hurt more than Olivia expected. After everything they'd been through to be together, the idea of living apart felt like failure. Long distance doesn't work, she said flatly. We both know that. It could, for us. We're strong enough. Are we? Because it sounds like you've already decided to go with or without me. Malik's expression hardened slightly. That's not fair. I'm trying to find a solution that works for both of us. By moving 1,000 miles away? By pursuing an opportunity that matters to me, he countered. Just like your foundation work matters to you. They argued late into the night, going in circles without resolution. Olivia felt herself saying things she didn't mean, driven by fear of losing him. Malik grew defensive, then withdrawn. Finally, exhausted, Olivia said, Maybe we need some time to think. Separately. Malik looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Maybe we do. The next day, Malik went to stay with a colleague from the training center, giving them both space to consider their options. The apartment felt empty without him. Chief moping around looking for his master. Olivia called Bethany, needing a friendly voice. I don't know what to do, she admitted after explaining the situation. I love him, Beth. But Chicago? Starting over again? What's really holding you back? Bethany asked. Is it the foundation? Your work with Denise? Or something else? Olivia considered the question. I'm tired of my life being determined by men's careers, she said finally. First my father, now Malik. Always adjusting, always compromising. Have you told Malik that? Not in those words. But I think he knows. Men don't know anything unless you tell them directly, Bethany said with a laugh. Talk to him, live, really talk. But when Olivia called Malik later that day, planning to suggest they meet, he sounded distant, formal. I've been thinking, he said. Maybe you were right. This is a sign that we want different things. That's not what I meant, she protested. I know, but maybe it's true anyway. His voice softened. I love you, Olivia, but I need to take this job. It's what I've been working towards since the fire took away my career as an active firefighter. And I need to stay in Atlanta, she said, realizing as she spoke that was true. At least for now, the foundation is just getting established. I can't abandon it. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions. So where does that leave us? Olivia finally asked. I don't know, Malik admitted. I wish I did. 2 days later, they met at a neutral location, the coffee shop where they'd first started to get to know each other in Atlanta. The familiar surroundings only highlighted how much had changed between them. I've accepted the Chicago position, Malik said without preamble. I start in 3 weeks. Olivia nodded, having expected this. I think that's the right decision for you. What about us? He asked, his eyes searching hers. She'd rehearsed what to say, but now the words stuck in her throat. I don't see how it can work, she finally managed. We'd be living completely separate lives. It wouldn't have to be forever, just until you can transition the foundation to someone else, or until I can find a similar position back here. And how long would that be? A year? 2? Olivia shook her head. I can't live in limbo, Malik. Always waiting, always putting my life on hold. His jaw tightened. So that's it? We just give up? I'm not giving up, she said, tears threatening. I'm being realistic. You need to take this job. I need to stay here. Those two things can't coexist right now. I see. His expression closed off, reminding her of the professional mask he'd worn when they first met. "So you've made your decision." "We've both made our decisions," she corrected gently, "and they're taking us in different directions." They parted with a painful awkwardness, neither knowing quite how to say goodbye. Over the next 2 weeks, they met briefly to exchange belongings and make arrangements for Chief, who would stay with Olivia. Each meeting was more strained than the last, both of them retreating behind walls of politeness to protect their wounded hearts. The day before Malik was to leave for Chicago, Olivia attended a foundation event alone. As she mingled with donors and community partners, she maintained a perfect smile, the Whitmore mask she worn all her life in Savannah. But inside, she was crumbling. Denise found her hiding in a bathroom, trying to compose herself after a wave of grief had hit unexpectedly. "You miss him," the older woman said simply. Olivia nodded, unable to speak. "Then why are you letting him go?" "Because he needs to take this job, and I need to stay here." Denise shook her head. "Child, in my 62 years on this earth, I've learned one thing for certain. There will always be jobs, always be opportunities. But finding someone who truly sees you, truly loves you for who you are, that's rare." "It's not that simple," Olivia protested. "It never is. But ask yourself this. 20 years from now, which will you regret more? Disrupting your career plans or losing the man you love?" The question followed Olivia home that night, echoing in her mind as she lay awake in the bed she'd shared with Malik. Chief whined softly, sensing her distress. "I know, boy," she whispered, stroking his fur. "I miss him, too." In the morning, Malik's flight would leave for Chicago. He had invited her to the airport, and she hadn't offered to come. It seemed they had already said their goodbyes, however inadequate they had been. But as dawn broke, Olivia made a decision. She wouldn't let fear of change, of upheaval, of the unknown, cause her the greatest love she'd ever known. She called her father, who answered despite the early hour. "Daddy, I need your help," she said without preamble. "I'm going to Chicago." Richard was silent for a moment, then said, "For Rhodes?" "Yes, today." "What about the foundation? Your work here?" "I can manage remotely for a while. And when the time is right, we'll find someone to take over the Atlanta office permanently." Another pause. "You really love him, don't you?" "More than I thought possible," she admitted. "Enough to take a chance on an uncertain future." To her surprise, Richard chuckled. "You know, your mother said almost the same thing to me once, before I screwed everything up. Daddy, go get him. Olivia, don't make my mistakes." With her father's unexpected blessing, Olivia moved quickly. She packed a small bag, arranged for a neighbor to watch Chief temporarily, and booked the first flight to Chicago she could find. She arrived late afternoon, taking a taxi straight to the address Malik had given her for his new apartment. But the building manager informed her that he hadn't checked in yet. "I believe he was visiting the fire station first," the woman said. "Something about meeting his new team." The National Training Institute was affiliated with Chicago's main fire academy. Olivia had the taxi take her there, her heart racing with equal parts hope and fear. What if he didn't want to see her? What if he'd already moved on? The fire academy was bustling with activity. Recruits in training, instructors calling out commands, fire trucks being maintained in the bays. Olivia approached a woman in uniform. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Malik Rhodes. He's starting with the Training Institute." The woman pointed toward a group of buildings across the campus. "New instructor orientation is happening in Building C. He should be there." Olivia walked quickly, rehearsing what she would say. As she approached Building C, she saw a group of people exiting, instructors in uniform shaking hands, exchanging contact information. And there was Malik, looking tired but professional in his new Training Institute uniform. He was talking with an older man, nodding seriously at whatever was being said. Olivia stopped, suddenly frozen with doubt. He looked like he belonged here already. What right did she have to disrupt his new beginning? But then Malik looked up and saw her. His conversation halted mid-sentence, his expression shifting from shock to confusion to something she couldn't quite read. He excused himself from the older man and walked toward her, stopping a few feet away. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" She had planned a speech, but all her carefully prepared words evaporated. Instead, she said simply, "You were right." "About what?" "About taking chances. About not living with regrets." She took a step closer. "About us being strong enough." Malik's expression remained guarded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I was wrong. I was scared of starting over. Scared of always being the one who follows rather than leads. But I was more scared of the wrong thing." Her voice faltered. "I should have been scared of losing you." "Olivia, you said I wasn't ready for someone like you," she continued, tears filling her eyes. "Maybe I wasn't, but I am now. I don't care what anyone thinks. You're not my type, Malik. You're my heart." For a long moment, Malik didn't move, didn't speak. The fear that she'd come too late, said too little, nearly overwhelmed her. Then he closed the distance between them in 2 quick strides and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. But she didn't care. All that mattered was that she was here, with him, where she belonged. "What about Atlanta?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "The foundation? Your work with Denise?" "We'll figure it out," she said, echoing the words he'd once said to her. "Maybe I'll commute for a while. Maybe we'll find a way to expand the foundation to Chicago. The details don't matter right now." "What does matter?" She looked up at him, seeing in his eyes everything she'd almost lost: strength, integrity, and a love that transcended every barrier they'd faced. "That we're together," she said simply. "Everything else is just geography." Malik smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and warmed her heart. "I love you, Olivia Whitmore, even when you drive me crazy." "I love you too, Malik Rhodes, especially when you drive me crazy." And there, in the shadow of the Chicago Fire Academy, they sealed their reunion with a kiss that promised a future. Not perfect, not easy, but theirs to build together. 6 months later, they stood hand in hand on the balcony of their new Chicago apartment, watching the sunset over the city skyline. Chief lounged nearby, contentedly chewing a bone. Malik's work at the Training Institute was already making waves in the firefighting community. His safety protocols were being implemented nationwide, potentially saving countless lives. Olivia had found her own path, dividing her time between the Atlanta Foundation and a new Chicago branch that focused specifically on supporting families of injured first responders, inspired, of course, by Malik's story. "I had a call with my father today," Olivia said, leaning against Malik's solid warmth. "He's thinking of stepping back from day-to-day operations. Wants me to consider taking a larger role in the company. Would you want that?" She considered the question. "Part of me would. But I think the foundation work is where my heart is." "Then that's what you should do," Malik said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Follow your heart." "I already did," she said, smiling up at him. "That's how I ended up here." Later that evening, as they prepared dinner together, a domestic skill Olivia had finally mastered, Malik seemed unusually quiet. "What's on your mind?" she asked, stirring the pasta sauce he'd taught her to make. "I was just thinking about that day in the stairwell," he said. "When you were in danger and I came to find you." "My knight in shining armor," she teased. "Hardly that," he laughed. "But it made me realize something." "What's that?" He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "That sometimes the most important journeys aren't about where you're going, but who you're going there with." "That's very philosophical for a firefighter," she said, trying to lighten the suddenly serious mood. But Malik wasn't deterred. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Malik." Olivia breathed, her heart suddenly racing. "I was going to plan something elaborate," he said, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. "But then I realized that's not us. We're real, remember? Not perfect, not a fairy tale, just real." Tears filled her eyes as he continued. "Olivia Whitmore, will you marry me? Not because it makes sense on paper, not because our families expect it, but because we choose each other. Every day, no matter what." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you, Malik Rhodes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Olivia thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a penthouse office in Savannah to a modest apartment in Chicago, from strangers divided by social expectations to partners united by love. He hadn't been her type, not according to the narrow definitions she'd once lived by, but he had become her everything. Her protector, her challenger, her best friend, and now her future husband. And as he pulled her close for a kiss that sealed their engagement, Olivia knew with absolute certainty that sometimes the heart knows better than the head. Sometimes the person you're meant to love is the one you least expect. Sometimes, not your type turns out to be exactly who you need.